All right. Officially, good afternoon. My name is Anissa Franklin. I'm with the Urban League of Lexington, Fayette County, where PG People Sr. is our president and CEO. Today, I am joined with Rob Monsma, who is with EHI Consultants. Rob, if you would just give us a wave. So everyone knows who you'll be hearing. Everyone knows who you'll be hearing from today. Like I said, we're going to be talking about opportunity zones and Lexington's opportunity zones in particular. So as we move, I'm going to ask Rob if he would share the screen and we'll just walk through some slides here. Feel free to go ahead and leave comments and things in the chat, especially if you have a question, because what that will do is help us. If we cannot answer the question immediately, then we can respond back to you. And thank you for registering, because that's how we have your email. We can make those responses back. All right.
And this, I might check. I want to make sure that Ed Holmes has an opportunity to be here. So if we could just wait 1 second, I'm just going to check in with him real quick. If we can just hang tight for a minute.
All right, so Ed Holmes is the E and the H in EHI Consultants, so we would love for him to be here. As many of you know, PG is out sick, and he is recovering quite nicely, so we do expect him to make a full recovery. While we're waiting, just again want to say thank you all for being a part of this conversation. Just so you know, what we are hoping is that everyone will share their faces so that we can see and have a more personal conversation. If you're not comfortable with that, that is perfectly fine. We do want to make sure that you, if you decide to speak and you use your microphone, of course, that you don't have any sounds around you that might be distracting to others. If you are sharing your screen or sharing your image through video, we ask that, you kind of limit the things that are going on around you. There's nothing more, distracting than people walking by and waving and saying hi and eating and all these things that we see now when it comes to Zoom meetings. We do want to have a greetings from the city. However, at the moment, I think they are starting to come in. So we'll just take a pause right here to admit a few more folks.
Anissa, good morning. Good morning, everybody who's on. I'm in the vehicle today, which is why you won't see my picture on and why I'll be muted. But I'll be listening very, very carefully to what we have to share today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
And this, I just spoke with Ed, and he's on the Teams meeting with Craig and Kevin, so they're going to join us shortly. So.
Okay, I see Craig just joined us.
Great.
Yeah, sorry everyone. I was over on Teams on the invite and didn't see that it had changed to Zoom.
No worries, no worries. Right now, Craig, we have 29 individuals in the chat.
Great.
All right, so we're waiting for Ed. We'll give him just another moment.
Okay.
Rob, we'll go ahead and get going if that's okay with you, sir.
All right, sure thing. Let me set up my screen share.
Thank you. All right, so Craig, we've already had some preliminaries. So if you would just offer a greeting from the city, maybe a little bit about why Lexington has opportunity zones, and just take it from there.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate it. Thanks for setting this up today. So for anybody on the call that I haven't met, my name is Craig Bent. I'm with the mayor's office with the city and the Office of Economic Development. And I'm the city liaison to our economic development partners. And the EHI and Urban League team are one of our economic partners. So we are in year 2 providing services with relation to our opportunity zone, which is just a few years old. And those services, in a nutshell, include assisting in the promotion and coordination of the opportunity zone with neighborhoods, businesses, and developers, coordination with the Neighborhoods in Transition Task Force, which some of you may be familiar with. And that's to ensure that the opportunity zone is kind of top of mind for that task force. And also working on economic development initiatives within the opportunity zone to create jobs within the zone. Ultimately, that's the real goal here. So there is and I'm sure this will come up later, so I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here, but there is a opportunity zone guidebook that the team has put together as a work product of this partnership. And there's some really good information in there. I'm sure you'll get pointed towards that later in this call, but that's a really good follow-up, I think, to this session today. So I'm here as a resource, so please feel free to contact me after this meeting if I can be of assistance. And thanks again for attending today.
Thank you, Craig. Rob, would you advance the slide for me? All right, as we've already started on this agenda for today, we've already done a welcome and a meeting, the meeting guidelines about your cameras and sounds and all of that. We've already had the city greeting. So now we want to move into what is an opportunity zone, and we'll follow that with where are they and those community profiles, and then also a community benefits agreement in which will give you an opportunity to voice your opinions, concerns, and things that you would like to see in these different communities. Then we'll have questions and closing. So now I just want to go ahead and point things over to Rob, who will talk to us about what is an opportunity zone.
Sure, thanks, Anissa. We'll kind of talk sort of high level of what the Opportunity Zone program is, where they exist in Louisville, and what the project team has done to sort of market the opportunities for investors, developers, and the community to work together to take advantage of this program. So let's see here. We went through that. So what's an opportunity zone? Opportunity zones were created by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. It's a low-income census tract that has been nominated by its state governor and certified by the Treasury Department. Opportunity zones are eligible to receive huge influx of investment from opportunity funds. And given the enormous tax incentives that the new legislation has created, cities can take advantage of this to meet the needs of the community. These are the 7 opportunity zones in Lexington. They mostly center around the urban core of the city, downtown and the surrounding areas. We're going to take a closer look at the opportunity zones in Lexington, and Anissa will sort of frame this next section.
Okay, I do want to give an opportunity first for Ed. If you would like to say anything now is your time to do so, sir, or we'll continue with the program as outlined.
Thanks, Anissa and Rob. We appreciate everyone getting on. And I think Craig and Kevin were on from the city as well. We're excited to talk to you about the opportunity zones. And I think what they're going to go into is what the zones are and the benefits that should benefit those that are interested in investing or being community members. So Anissa and Rob will lead that effort, and then we might have Craig and Kevin say a few things as well. And then there's additional dates after this that I think we're going to go into. So welcome one, and I'll turn it over to Anissa.
All right, thank you, Ed. So as right before Rob comes to share with those different community profiles and take a closer look into what each of those communities hold and the attractions, if you will, that are within those communities, I do want to ask you to think about each one as he goes through and think about the things that are needed within those communities, those neighborhoods. So, for instance, in downtown Lexington, there's been discussion for years upon years about needing some kind of grocery store or a community garden and things like that. So as we're going through these different community profiles, if you would just start thinking about what some of those things are that you would like to see or that you think the neighborhood would benefit from having in those communities, feel free to leave those in the chat or be ready to share those out as we move further into the discussion about community benefits agreements. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Anissa and Ed. So we created community profiles for each opportunity zone to make it easier for community members to highlight what is needed and for investors and developers to better understand the environment they may potentially be working in. These profiles highlight some existing assets and neighborhoods, provide a demographic summary, and analyze vacant or underutilized properties by zoning classification. So if an opportunity fund were interested in developing residential or commercial property, they can find those opportunities easier and fill in vacancies. So we'll go through the 7 zones individually. And we'll also be dropping the link to the guidebook in the chat at the end, and we'll email it to you all as well, just so you can have a more thorough review of the kind of work we've done. So the first opportunity zone we called the East Downtown Civic District. It includes portions of the North Limestone, Martin Luther King, Aylesford Place, South Hill, and Greater East End neighborhoods. Some of the assets we highlighted included the Public Library, Kentucky Theater, Sayre School, Lextran Transit Center, First African Baptist Church, and several civic buildings, including Fayette County Attorney's Office, the LFUCG offices, Fayette County District Court, and the Robert F. Stevens Courthouse Plaza. We also included Town Branch Commons, Thoroughbred Park, and Charles Young Park. Vacant properties in this area include various levels of residential and commercial zoning. This area has the lowest level of high school graduates and service industry workers, and the highest level of residents with bachelor's, graduate, or professional degrees and medium home value across the 7 opportunity zones. The second opportunity zone we called the West Downtown Distillery District. This area includes the North Side, Western Suburb, and Woodward Heights neighborhoods. Some of the assets we highlighted include Rupp Arena, Central Bank Convention Center, Town Branch Park, the Explorium of Lexington, the Lexington Opera House, and Triangle Park. The area has a diversity of vacant lots that include residential, commercial, and industrial uses, has the smallest population, fewest blue-collar workers while having the highest median age, per capita income, and white-collar workers across the 7 opportunity zones. We call the third opportunity zone the North University Historic District, and incorporates the North Limestone and North Side neighborhoods. Assets in this area include Transylvania University, Coolhaven Park, Dunbar Community Center, Lexington Parks and Recreation Headquarters, and the Legacy Trail. Vacant lots in this area are mostly business, with some industrial and office uses included. This area has the highest median disposable income and median household income. And the fourth opportunity zone is called the East End Residential District in the guidebook, and includes the North Limestone, Martin Luther King, and William Wells Brown neighborhoods. Assets in this area include Lexington Traditional Magnet School, William Wells Brown Elementary School, Lexington Community Radio, STEAM Academy, the Lexington Fire Department headquarters, and the Center for Women, Children, and Families. 75% of vacant lots in this area are zoned residential, with some business and industrial opportunities as well. This area has the highest Black population across the opportunity zones. The fifth opportunity zone is called the Davis Park Red Mile District, and includes the South End Park, South Hill, and Woodward Heights neighborhoods. Existing assets include the Davis Park Community Land Trust, the Red Mile, and the UK Center for Drug Addiction and Alcohol Research. Industrial zoning makes up the largest vacancy in the area, while some business and residential vacancies exist as well. The area has the highest number of households, the largest white population, and money spent on rent, and the lowest age, disposable income, household income, and net worth. We call the sixth opportunity zone the Georgetown Street Corridor Development District, which includes the Georgetown Street and St. Martin's Village neighborhoods. Existing assets include Douglas Park, Booker T. Washington Elementary, and the Learning Center. Industrial and residential zoning make up most area vacancies. This area has the largest population, the highest percentage of high school graduates and residents with some college education, the highest net worth, and the highest percentage of service industry workers, while having the lowest median home value across the 7 opportunity zones. The final opportunity zone is called the North Limestone Commercial and Innovation District. It includes the North Limestone neighborhood. Existing assets include BCTC, the Hope Center, North Lexington YMCA, the Health Department, Lexmark, the Legacy Trail, Whitaker Bank Ballpark, Julietta Market, Grayline Station, and WLEX 18. The vast majority of vacant properties in the district are zoned industrial. The area has the highest percentage of residents with no high school diploma, the highest Hispanic and other race populations, and the lowest number of households. So we wanted to create these profiles. So like I said, both residents and potential developers knew the existing assets that they could leverage and some of the needs of the area. So we hope this sort of gives you an idea of where these opportunity zones are, where we can use this program to attract investment in your neighborhood. So I will hand it back to Anissa to walk through the community benefits agreements information.
Thank you, Rob. So community benefits or agreements kind of work like this. You have developers on one hand, and developers and investors, and then you have community residents. And when you marry the two together, working together, we can support one another. And so there are a number of community benefits agreements that have been made over time, and there have been some examples of some of those projects that have worked out really well. And considering those, as well as the work of the Neighborhoods and Transition Task Force, as well as the Mayor's Commission on Racial Justice and Equality, we've got some ideas already in mind of what community residents would like to see. But we do want to ask this group if you would consider voicing some of the things in which you would like to see. It may be easier if Rob puts up the map of the full city one, or we can talk profile by profile. That is totally up to you. I do want to go ahead and give you some ideas of some examples of community benefits agreements, or some of those things that have been included in community benefits agreements across the country. One is a living wage requirement for the workers who are working on the developments that are going on in those various communities. Another is hiring residents from within the neighborhood. So if development is coming to a low-income area, which the opportunity zones are, that they have a requirement to hire, say, 10% of their workforce from within that neighborhood. Another is construction of parks and recreational facilities that neighborhood residents have a place to go for outdoor activity. Another, I'll share 2 more, community input into the selection of the tenants of that development. So we have a lot of mixed use properties here in Lexington, and it would be a way of saying that one of these stores or storefronts that are there, we would like to see a grocery store. We'd like to see a healthy eating option go into these different places. And then another is construction of affordable housing. And so we know that when new development comes in, there's it could lend to gentrification unless we do it right. And so that's kind of where having a community benefits agreement can come into play. And so with that, I'd love to open it up and hear from you all as to some of the things that you would like to see in this area, considering it's mostly contiguous. What are some of the things that you would like to see in some of these community profiles? Anyone?
Hey, Anissa. Hey, everyone. Laura Hatfield here at Lexington Parks and Recreation. I'm curious about the community benefits agreement that you talked about Parks and Rec, and if we could look at that from other cities, what they did? I mean, we have some community centers in these areas right now, whether it's with social services or parks. A couple that weren't mentioned were, or I didn't hear, Black and Williams, the William Wells Brown Community Center that's in the William Wells Brown Elementary School, Charles Young. So I'd be curious about what parks can do.
Sure. Thank you for that, Laura. We'll be sure to follow up for sure. You know, in addition to kind of creating these community profiles, that's what we've been doing is looking for best practices across the country. Some people are doing it really well, and we want to be amongst that group. And then some are not doing it so great, and we're also learning lessons from them on what not to do. So yes, we do have some examples of some community parks and things that are going on in some of these areas that are working well. I'm happy to share those with you and the full group if everyone is interested. I'll just shoot out an email afterwards that shares that content. Also, as you're thinking, we had a comment in the chat that asked about the community profiles, if we could share those. We will share those community profiles. You know, as Craig was talking about the Opportunity Zone Guidebook that we created, those community profiles are outlined within that guidebook, so we'll make sure that you have that as well.
Anissa Roy Woods here.
Yes, sir.
Wanted to find out if we could possibly, as Community Action Council, bridge the gap between daycares and Fayette County Public Schools, because we're finding that a number of children are going into the school system behind. And so we want to ensure that as we move into 2022 and 2023 and so forth and so on, that doesn't continue. And so Community Action, of course, having a Head Start program, we'd love to be able to partner with whoever you suggest so we can ensure that that just doesn't continue the way it's been going.
Excellent. And so when you're thinking about community benefits agreements too, one of the things that could easily be written in is that a developer commits, say, 0.5% or 1%, 2% or whatever of their development supports early childhood education. You know, these are different things that, I mean, we can write in whatever you would like to see within those benefits agreements, but you need a team of folks who are willing to champion those causes. And so, yeah, just continue to throw out examples and we'll continue to take those notes and put something together.
Anissa, Austin, I got in late, but I'm looking at the map and I'm asking a question, and then I'm going to have to get off. I've got another commitment, and so I'm only got on to let you know that we are interested in this type of thing. But Shropshire is not part of the Opportunity Zone. Is that correct? So I'm looking at
That's a definite question for Rob. Rob, do you know?
I am not entirely sure. I'd have to get back to you about that.
I'll send you some information, Austin, but there is something on the LFUCG site where you can type in an address and find out if that street is within the zone. But I'll do that work and get back to you.
Because we're working with Community Action now and working with urban county government on that area around William Wells Brown that we think has some great potential if we're able to affect the changes that we want. But when I look at that in the gray, it just kind of frightens me. So if you send me whatever and keep me on the list, but I'm going to have to exit, now, and we'll chat later.
Okay. Thank you, sir. One of the things I'm trying to learn to do is sit in silence and be okay with that. So I'm giving everybody an opportunity.
Hey,
If y'all have any questions.
I just wanted to make
Hey, Eli.
mention. It's good to see everyone here. I always drive around like Oliver Lewis Way. I live in the Census Tract 9, the Red Mile area, and I always like surprised how kind of empty it is. Not where where you have like that Shenanigans, the Lex, those apartments, not that area, but like where those new houses are, and there's just like a big open field. It's just there's nothing really there. And I know again this is an opportunity zone, so I always wonder if there's any development, in the pipeline for things that would attract working class families, such as like a grocery store. Like you mentioned this, like right at a grocery store, community garden, or instead of like another brewery or something like that. Like yeah, so some types of developments like that that could actually entice working class families to live in that area. Because again, I know like there's new housing there, and there probably is more housing to be developed there, but uh, also something where people don't have to drive miles just to get fresh food. So just that Oliver Lewis Way area.
Thank
And
you, Eli.
I think that area probably incorporates most of what's being developed by the Davis Park Community Land Trust. So I know Ed is involved in working with them, but that would be somebody who you could reach out to help develop those ideas.
Hey, what was his name again? I'm sorry.
It's the Davis Park Community Land Trust.
Okay.
And Ed Holmes, who is the president of EHI, works with them. So I can contact you after this. Like,
thank you.
You want to drop an email in the chat?
Yes, we'll do.
Great.
Hi, Anissa. This is Anna Kenyon with United Way East End Center. How are you?
I'm great.
Great. In line with what Eli was talking about in regards to the grocery store, I'd like for you to elaborate a little bit more on what that would look like. Are we talking about a major chain doing a little small type of store, or how, what that would look like? On 3rd Street, the one grocery store that was very vital, well, I should say vital, but a very accessible for the residents in this area is no longer in existence. And so there's not a grocery store, very close in this area. So when we're talking about grocery stores, what would that look like? Large chains, or have we gotten to that point? Or have you got to that point yet?
We're actually not at that point yet, but just the idea of knowing that having a grocery store in the area is needed for so that we can help combat some of this food insecurity and things. So just, what that actually looks like, whether it's a Kroger or, whoever, we don't know that as of yet, but just knowing that we want to go to a developer and say, hey, one of the community benefits that we would like to see is a grocery store. And what can you do in order to help us with that? Or if it's one of those multi-use facilities, like I was saying, maybe one of those slots is for fresh produce or something like that. So it's just the idea, the concept of it right now. And then as we move further into discussions, we can definitely bring folks back around the table to shape that a little bit better.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that this program functions is that you have a couple different mechanisms. You have opportunity zones, which are areas that are eligible for investment. And then you have opportunity funds, which are sort of the investment mechanism. So the potential for that would be for the city and various groups to try and attract an opportunity fund to invest in a vacant lot in one of these 7 areas to try and develop some sort of large or medium scale retail that might be filled by a grocery store. So that would be something that we would be exploring.
So one of the comments in the chat is for North Side Grocery as well, around West 6th and Jefferson, that has easy access to the Coolvin Apartments, Smith Street, and Jefferson Street.
here. Okay. Let's see.
I've
I
been
see
asked
one.
to provide examples of community benefits agreements. We will definitely do that too. So what we'll do is for not just for everyone who's attending here today, but if you received an email with a link to this meeting, I'll send out something to with all of these different responses in that email so that everyone will have it.
Thank you.
I see a question regarding the demographic statistics, so I can just speak quickly to that. We use a company called Esri to compile those. They have software called Business Analyst, which allows you to analyze various aspects of a specific area, and that's how those were compiled. And I'm happy to talk with you more one-on-one if you'd like. I won't bore everybody with demographic analysis. We'll save that for another day.
I had a question, please. I'm
Sure,
sorry,
go ahead.
I've been kind of in and out because I've got people walking in on me. So I keep coming on and off of the video, but trying to listen at the same time. When I'm thinking about Zone 6, and just wondering if this is a possibility to even be thought about, I do think definitely about access to healthy food. I think that would be very important. But, and I guess this is just me, just visualizing, I know that there are some buildings. Would it be possible to even think about somewhere where you could access not only healthy food, but let's just think health, period. Maybe mental health services could be available as well. I do realize that there are mental health services sort of in the area, we can say, but they're not really accessible, walkable from this area. Let's put it that way. So it could be a barrier. But maybe if there could be a certain percentage or something that could go into mental health services. I do see a great need in this area for that. And I do think that that need affects just about every other need that we see. So I don't know if that's totally way off, but I think that would help across the board.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yes.
Another says, I'm very interested in job creation, jobs with living wage and full-time benefits and workforce education preparation. Will there be committees that focus on these areas in the opportunity zones? At this moment, I think this is Lori. Lori, we can do anything we want to do right now. So yes, as we start to see where people are focused, like right now we're hearing grocery, we're hearing jobs for economic development, all these different areas, we can definitely commit or we can create committees that focus on those different areas, or we can put everyone into a group and we kind of work as a whole for each individual profile or as the opportunity zone within itself. So right now, the opportunities that we have to move forward on this project are kind of like right now, just pour it all into us and let us decide what is the best way for us all to move collectively forward so that we get the benefits and things in which we need within our community as we simulate economic development.
Yeah, and I'll just go off that. The opportunity funds can be spent both on property within each of these districts, or they can be invested in businesses. Mostly from what we've read and speaking with other cities and investors, it's been invested into property just because the return on investment has been greater, but more and more people are starting to invest into businesses. We're in year 4 or going into year 5 of this program now. So I think there's still a lot of unrealized investment that could go into businesses. And depending on how the various ways incentives are sort of packaged, to attract those funds, that's something that we'll continue looking at and trying to work with both community members, nonprofit groups, LFUCG, and investors through this process.
Give me just a second, Ms. Natalie, and I will definitely come to you next. Just want to also make sure that everyone knows, if you have participated, or I'm sure you've all heard about the Mayor's Commission on Racial Justice and Equality, as well as the Neighborhoods in Transition Task Force, our group is also charged with making sure that those recommendations are kind of interwoven into these opportunity zones, so that we are keeping a finger on the pulse, if you will, of the recommendations that they made, plus the comments and recommendations that, or suggestions that you all have, and making sure that when we do put these community benefits agreements and things together, that we're considering all of those components. I know a lot of times you'll have reports that are done and are put up on the shelf, but the city was intentional in making sure that as we're working on opportunity zones, that we're making sure that we keep those things to the forefront as we're having these conversations. All right, I believe it was Miss Natalie.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Thank you. So Rob, you just said that this program's been going on for 4 years. So I wondered if there were some examples of what kind of developments have happened thus far that have been really helpful to the neighborhoods and or not. And then also, is there a cap to the length of the program? Like if we're 4 years in, is there a time when this cuts off? But really just the question is around examples of what's happened thus far. And then also with this community agreement, community benefits agreement, I was wondering what kind of teeth that agreement had as far as keeping these developments within that space, and what that looks like when you go to actually enforce that agreement.
So I'll take the first part that you addressed to me. The two cities that I think have leveraged the program for the most results, I'll say, are probably Erie, Pennsylvania, and Columbus, Ohio. They've just been able to kind of stack capital in ways that produce some pretty large mixed-use developments. So those two, I think, and I'll put together some examples to send your way, and I'm happy to talk more one-on-one after this, but those two are the ones that come to mind. And I think those are probably the big opportunities, because this is so kind of has been leveraged by investors and developers through real estate investment. I think that's sort of where the biggest opportunities are, whether those are single family homes, mixed use, or offices. That's what we've seen the most activity in. I think the second part of your question was in regard to the longevity of the program. The way that it's set up is that private individuals can take their capital gains and invest them in opportunity funds. So there are different kind of benefits that you get from leaving that money in an opportunity fund for 3, 5, or 10 years. So after 10 years, you're reaching kind of the maximum benefit of what the program offers, but you can leave your investment in an opportunity fund, I believe, until 2035. And the way that the benefit from that is that it's then shielded from being taxed, essentially. So the program will pretty much run until opportunity funds either have invested all the money or until the federal government makes changes to it. I hope that answers your question.
The other side of one of those questions was about the enforceability, I believe, of the community benefits agreement. And so that comes with having created a coalition, so that it's not just one entity that is owning what those decided upon community benefits are. And so it's more or less, if we were all the coalition, that we would bring our collective power to an agreement with the developer and that we hold them accountable. It is an enforceable, legal binding agreement, but with anything, you have to have someone who's diligent in monitoring and making sure that those things are being met.
Thank you.
Sure.
Nissa,
Yes,
Roy Woods again.
Roy.
Had a question as a part of the community benefits agreement, and this relates to affordable housing for homeless families. Been in lots of talks with Fayette County Public Schools, and we're finding that a number of the kids there are part of homeless families. And so my question is, with the LFUCG only giving $10 million to affordable housing, what would this coalition, what would this community agreement allow us to be able to do? Because let's be honest, we know $10 million for all of the homeless people that we have out there. And again, I'm talking about families, not just homeless individuals. $10 million is just a drop in the bucket. So trying to see what we could do to add to those funds. And so I'm interested in your and other people's thoughts, because we know that that's going to be a situation that we're facing. The data says we have a large number of homeless families here. So that's what I'm trying to ask.
That's why I think this is so important. I mean, the number of low-income families, homeless families, is growing day to day, and COVID has not helped us with that situation at all. In fact, it took us like 30,000 steps in the wrong direction. So though the city has committed the 10 million, and we're very grateful for the 10 million, because at least that gets us moving forward, that creating a community benefits agreement that talks about creating affordable housing within some of these developments. You know, as you heard Rob say, that a lot of the investments are going towards single family homes, or they have to do with building homes for people to live in. So maybe it's, if they're doing so many, that we ask that some of those be set aside for low income families. One of the things that we saw when the chamber went on the trip to Austin was that they had an area which was the old airport. Some of you may have been on this trip. It was the old airport land, and so they've created a whole new community out there. Now, their idea of affordable is almost $1 million, so that ain't Lexington. But I do want to say that they did create opportunities for affordable housing within that development, and the affordable housing units had to use the same building supplies as some of the more expensive units. So it could be that we write in something in the community benefits that kind of equates to that. But this is our chance to create additional affordable housing units by creating something within the community benefits agreement that says, if you're going to do some development here, we want to see these benefits for low-income families.
And I can just provide an example. I'm here in Louisville, so don't hold that against me, but there's a group here that are working within one of our opportunity zones to develop housing, and they've set aside, they have a community benefits agreement that includes 40 units that are dedicated to a nonprofit housing entity. So they've identified that partner and set aside those units for affordable housing. It's called, the group is called the Scholar House, or the Family Scholar House. So it's adults who are going back to school who have young children. So that's one example of how CBAs can be used in line with the Opportunity Zone program to create those benefits.
Thank you.
I see a couple questions in the chat I think I can address. One says, is there a list of houses that have used the housing opportunity? The federal government hasn't created too many mechanisms for understanding the impact of the program. We're still trying to sort of figure out how best to see where those investments have been made. But the short answer is no. And talking with our partners in other cities such as Austin, they've been asking their elected officials at every level of government for more transparency in this program so that we can measure the impact more easily.
Just to echo what Rob just said, that's one of the challenges I think of the program, is that you can have investment happening within the community and there's no requirement for it to be reported to any of the stakeholders, the city or anyone else. And so it can be very difficult to at least make initial assessments of success of an opportunity zone, just because there could be there could be no investment happening, or there could be significant investment happening. And unless they are self-reporting on that, it can be difficult to understand what those impacts truly are.
Thank you, Craig.
There were several, I guess, questions and comments made about grocery stores. By the way, I'm James Coles with Community Action Council here in Lexington. There were several comments made in reference to the need for grocery stores in many of these communities, and the Georgetown corridor being another community that needs access to healthy food in a grocery store. And I think we understand the role grocery stores play as it relates to the development and community development. I mean, the role grocery stores play in economic development by attracting so many related and unrelated businesses when they're developed. My question would be is, how will these business agreements prioritize the communities that have the greatest need for investment and attention as it relates to economic development?
As a coalition, we have the opportunity to dictate what our priorities are and where those focuses are. As I was sharing with how the coalition could work, is that all of the 7 communities that were outlined could be one coalition, or each of those community profiles, if you will, could be its own coalition. We still have to determine how that moves forward, but within each, we have to then break it down into what our priorities are. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. What I think I heard you say was the coalition will identify and determine, or has the latitude to identify and determine the greatest the profiles with the greatest need and approach it from that linear perspective.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think I think there have been a few people now that have mentioned this area along Georgetown Street specifically, and specifically the need for a grocery store over there. So if we can work with you all to highlight the needs, and you've said grocery store, if we can work with you all to and the city and investors to sort of find the best opportunity to make that sort of investment work through the Opportunity Zone program, I think is probably the path forward with the work we're doing. So we'll reach out to you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Cabrinda with the Urban League Young Professionals. And I was just curious as to who the community can hold accountable for the community benefit agreement. If once the development is, and I know I think this has been answered or asked earlier, but I didn't catch who we could hold accountable for this. Because my fear is like once the development is created, the local residents will be pushed out, although that's not what this is for. So how can we ensure that this doesn't happen?
So that's the piece that we were talking in regard to a coalition. So it's not just, all of us coming here today and voicing our opinions, but following this, we want to see how many individuals are willing to work on a coalition, either for a specific area or for the opportunity zone as a whole, who will work together beyond this and then create that benefits agreement where they take it to the developer or an investor, and there's a signed agreement that holds that that is that legally binding document. But it has to be a coalition of individuals who are willing to still hold the baton and carry it forward, because otherwise it does kind of just fall by the wayside if nobody is actually monitoring and making sure that the developer is holding good on the things in which they said, and the developer to hold the community responsible for the things in which they said that they would also provide. So it's not just a one and done kind of deal. It has to be that we continue to carry the baton and move that forward.
Who will form the coalition?
We will be a part of forming that coalition. Today is the first of 3 community meetings that we'll have. Our next one will be on January the 25th with specifically investors and developers. And then the one on February the 8th will be to anyone who has missed either of the first 2. And then we'll bring together the group of individuals who are still willing to move forward and help us with this opportunity project within the Lexington community.
Hello,
All
everyone.
right, we're nearing one. I'm sorry, hey.
How are you?
I'm great, I am great.
I just want to add one thing as I listen into this conversation. When we keep hearing grocery stores, grocery stores, grocery stores, I want to add in a qualifier, which is affordable grocery stores. We have seen in our community, for instance, I won't name names, gas stations that have become mini grocery stores. Well, those gas stations charge a 30 to 35% premium for the goods they sell in a poor community. So the people in the community have access to a small grocery store, but they're now paying 30 to 35% more than we are across town. Additionally, there's also the opportunity for, in some areas of downtown, within the opportunity zone, for a store like a Whole Foods to move in. It would be a great position, right? That would be good for Whole Foods and a small part of the community in and around that area. It would not be a great benefit to the majority of people who live in and around that area. So as we're talking about grocery stores, I'm just cautioning us to use the qualifier of affordable grocery stores that are going to truly serve the community and not lead ultimately to more gentrification in those areas. So I just wanted to offer that up as a comment.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, you all, we are nearing the 1 o'clock hour. Someone else have a comment?
Yeah, I had a question. This is Jill Bree, Balance Innovation Center, and we people have talked about affordable or living wage jobs. And I have a question from looking at all the different community opportunity zones as far as transportation for workforce, and where that, is there gaps there, or where are the best options for that based on the different zones? I don't know if that question made sense, if you have questions about my question.
Yeah, I don't want to overpromise. I'm not certain that this program will be able to impact increased access to transportation. It's just
I'm
really
not asking about increased access to transportation, but in these different opportunity zones, when you're looking at workforce development and providing opportunities for living wages, are there areas that are better suited for transportation for that workforce?
That is not an analysis that we've undertaken yet, but that can definitely be something that we look into as we go forward.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone, we are nearing the 1 o'clock hour. We've had it in the 1:30 just to make sure that anyone who, if we got a whole lot of questions, that we could continue. But I would like to give you 30 minutes of your time back. I would ask that if you guys have any questions that you would send those to me. I am right now typing my email into the chat. And we'll be sure to send you all of the information that we have promised thus far. And, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot we actually had a screen that talked about who we are.
You came prepared.
And how to reach us. That's great. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us and we will do our best to get you a response fairly quickly. I want to thank the city for investing in the Urban League and EHI in order to do this work on opportunity zones. We feel like this has been quite a challenge, as well as an opportunity for us to do what we can for our city. And for those low income areas, you know, as an Urban League, that's what we want to do, is give a voice to those who may not be heard. So for us to actually be a part of this work has been right in line with our mission. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. Also, just want to ask Ed or Rob if you have any comments that you would like to make before we say goodbye.
No, I just want to echo your comments. It's coming from Louisville. It's been really great to spend a lot of time in Lexington, get to know you all, your communities more. So I'm looking forward to working closer with you all. So thank you.
All right. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email and I will definitely do my best to get back in touch with you with those responses. And as we go forward, I hope that you will pay attention to some of the other conversations that we have coming up again on January the 25th, as well as February the 8th, and the work that we have going forward after those conversations have been held. All right. Thank you all and enjoy your Tuesday. Please stay safe and yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Be safe.
Take care, y'all.
All right. Thank you all.